Alright, so in the last video we went over the blade, making the blade, and the leather straps on the blade. In this video we're going to go over how to texture it. This covers UV unwrapping, but not in depth. I'm just going to show you what I do for UV unwrapping, so we'll just get right into that. The blade doesn't need to be unwrapped, so we'll leave that as it is. So we'll hide that since we're done with it. These do need to be unwrapped, but only on the sides, which is what I'll do right here. I'll just select the edges on the side. Mark those as seams, maybe make these a bit sharper as well, just in case something happens. Alright, these don't need to be unwrapped because we have an open face here, so like it literally is just going to look like this as a 2D image. This, however, does need to be unwrapped. This is crazy geometry, so we need to make sure it's not, Blender doesn't, so we need to make sure Blender doesn't have a hard time reading that geometry. So we'll hide that since we're done unwrapping it. The cylinder we'll need to unwrap. I know I said we'd mention this later, and this is us mentioning it later. We always need to unwrap our cylinders. Always need to mark at least one vertex that goes from the very top to the very bottom of the cylinder as a seam. That is non-negotiable, otherwise it will look very, very stretched and just ugly in general. This also needs to be unwrapped, so we can just do that, and I'll just complete the loop. That. And yeah, okay, cool, that's it. And that's all we need to do for the unwrapping part. Now we need to add a material so we can actually add a texture to that material. So we'll go into the material properties tab, select new, and I'll call this sword. And we have a bunch of objects that don't have this material. So what we can do is with this active object selected, we'll shift and then select everything else, Control L, link materials, and then now all of these materials have the sword material attached to it. Go into UV editing, and I already have the palette in here, but what you need to do to add it in your scene, go into open and just find it on your computer. I'll link it in the description. So with this selected, with the palette open, we will go into our blade, go into edit mode, U to unwrap it, and then boom, there is our blade. We'll rotate this by 90 degrees. Let's see, we'll go into our flat shading tab just to see the textures better, or what we can do is first I actually forgot to do this important thing. When we add a material, we need to actually assign the texture to the material. To assign the texture to the material, we go to our base color channel right here, go into texture, image texture, go into drop down, find our texture, and then boom, now it actually shows up on our sword. So with the blade selected, and I'll actually go over here because it's mirrored and it doesn't actually show the geometry, we'll just scale it down into one of the gradient panels just to get a result that we like. And already I think that looks pretty fun. We'll scale it down in terms of how big the island is. Cool. All right, let's go in the leather straps next. And I'll go into island select mode, which is just 4. Pressing 4 while in the UV space. Cool. And I'll rotate all of these and I'll bring them into, where do I want to bring them? Is this good? How does a reference look? Maybe this? Okay, we'll go with that. Let's do the horns next. I'll unwrap them. This will be pretty simple. Literally all that the horn is. So we'll just bring this up, make sure it's facing upwards, and then go into a gradient tab. Just like that. We'll do this one now. Bring this into like a really strong yellow one, and then bring the metal into, you guessed it, a gray one. But it looks kind of weird, so I might actually get rid of, let's see, how can we fix this? Should we get rid of the seam there? Yeah, I think we're okay. We'll get rid of the seam there and just put it in one of the panels. You do not do this when you're actually like baking textures. This is fine since we're literally just putting an image on it, but generally speaking, you don't want to do that ever. So don't take after me if you are baking textures and watching this tutorial too. Okay, we're getting a similar error here. Should we just... Yes, I think we should. All right, cool. Last but not least, we have the pommel. So we'll just quickly do that one. Nice. All right, that's pretty much the entire sword done. We can go into layout, and then we can go into our texture view mode and then disable specular lighting. This will basically be how the sword appears in Roblox Studio, which is what we'll cover in the very next video. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.